How does one become a nice guy to begin with?
Okay, that's a good question. And there's no like one cookie cutter way that guys become nice guys. And I'll give you the short version. And I talk more about this in the book, No More Mr. Nice Guy. And I talk about it in my workshops. But just kind of the quick child development life skill version is that all children, because they're dependent, they're vulnerable, they're powerless, tend to experience various uncomfortable or painful experiences in life, whether it's being hungry, not being fed, whether it's having an upset stomach, or being cold, or needing to go to the bathroom, or needing to be held. And then beyond that, often children as they grow up experiences other painful experiences of abandonment or neglect or even abuse or parents fighting or dad leaving or mom being depressed and sad or or parents being addicts. I mean, any number of things can contribute to painful or uncomfortable feeling in children. Because children by nature are narcissistic, they believe that they are the cause of everything. The world revolves around them. They believe they are not only the cause of everything they experience, but perhaps they can also be the solution to it, that they can fix it. So children inaccurately internalize at a very young age. I mean, we're talking in the womb, days old, weeks old, months old, with a very immature mind that doesn't have reasoning capability. They emotionally internalize there's something wrong with me, and they do two things without having conscious ability. They do two things. One is they try to find ways to manage or soothe the uncomfortable feelings. So a child might cry, they might stick a thumb in their mouth, or they might just start stare at the mobile above them, or they might become needless and wantless. There's no rationality to it. It's just kind of an instinctual response to uncomfortable feelings. The other thing that children naturally try to do is as they start trying to anticipate what caused these painful experiences, they try to do things to prevent them from happening in the future. Now, all of this gets recorded at a deep emotional level, not at a cognitive level in the human brain. We all have this. We all experience it. So we all experience uncomfortable feelings. We all develop mechanisms to try to manage the feelings of discomfort, and we all develop mechanisms to try to prevent those from happening again. And that can take lots of different forms. For the guys I work with, it takes this form of being the nice guy, of being needless and wantless, of being low maintenance, of never being a problem, of trying to please everybody, of giving, and making their needs a low priority. It takes a lot of different manifestations for the nice guy, but usually what it boils down to is, just to put it in a nutshell, the nice guy is a person who's inaccurately internalized an emotional belief there's something wrong with me,
Mm.
and that if people knew that, they're going to reject me or abandon me or hurt me. So I've got to hide it, and I've got to become what I think other people want me to be to get their love and approval and get my needs met. So nice guys are trying to become something else while hiding certain fundamental things about them. Most often their needs, their wants, and their sexuality. That all gets tucked away in this nice tiny compartment because they believe that if people see those things in them, they'll react negatively to them. So that's kind of, the paradigm of how all humans kind of adapt their life roadmap. Now, I'll just add one more piece. All humans come into adulthood believing that emotional roadmap is 100% accurate and will guide them successfully through life. We all do. That's where therapy and coaching and ayahuasca and other things come in handy. Is to begin to help us become aware of and break out of those emotionally internalized roadmaps that we created again when we were extremely immature, vulnerable, and powerless. We're not immature now. We're not vulnerable. We're not powerless. And we can use parts of our brain that we didn't have online when we were small children to make more conscious decisions. But the problem is what we stored up in the emotional part of our brain, a very primitive part of our brain, is wired into every other part of our brain and tends to influence all of our thinking, our observation, our view of ourselves in the world. And it's kind of our operating language, the machine language, the DOS, the code written below what our life programs are run on. And we think it's 100% accurate. Often we never challenge it or question it. So the nice guy might walk through life thinking, yeah, if I just avoid all conflict, if I sacrifice my needs and wants, if I hide everything about me that might get a negative reaction, if I become a chameleon and try to please everybody, then I'll be liked and loved and get my needs met and have a good life. And we think that makes perfect sense, and until it doesn't work, and for a number of reasons, but which is true for all internalized survival mechanisms from infancy and childhood. None of them really work, with one caveat. Sometimes they kind of work if we get in toxic situations that feel a lot like the situations we develop those mechanisms in as children. And so lo and behold, what do most of us do? We go out and recreate the same familiar situations in life that feel familiar, even if they're not particularly fulfilling.
Right.
Were you expecting all that? I kind of gave you the big version of it.
That was super, super helpful. Even for myself, like, and a lot of the guys I work with, one of the biggest things for me was like, I had trouble meeting women. So when I started meeting women, I noticed that these behaviors were there, like being chameleon-like, almost seeking approval, seeking validation. And once I overcame that, and recently I got into a relationship, we've been in a relationship almost 2 years, I noticed these behaviors started coming up in the relationship. And I'm like, holy crap, this is like a whole matrix. And so now with me and my girlfriend, we realized that, especially for me, the things that I almost do in the relationship are what I had experiences with my parents, because I had a really traumatic experience like when I grew up. So now it's almost like I use my relationship as a way to grow and kind of overcome those things. And it's been a heck of a journey, because I'm just always learning about myself and realizing all these behaviors. For example, with my girlfriend for a while, like, there was some things that I wanted, but I would never say. And then I would start almost blaming her for it. And then I was like, why am I blaming her for it? So I actually sat down with her. We had a talk, and it was an amazing talk, and we got on the same page. And I was like, holy crap, all this time that I had been causing almost this pain for myself and almost distancing myself from my girlfriend was all my fault. It wasn't her fault. She was okay with what I actually wanted. So it was just really amazing to kind of understand that. And now I almost use, it sounds bad, but I almost use the relationship as a way to personally grow and also grow the relationship. And I realize that a lot of it is on me. It's not on her. Most of it is actually on me.